from the, if I may refer to my notes, I believe it was the daughters and the granddaughter, Isabel Pritchard, Michelle Lopez, and Rachel Lopez as well.
Okay. And what is the purpose of using those known fingerprints or known prints in your comparison analysis?
So my job is to make latent print examinations. So not only am I trying to identify who has been at a scene, but I'm also trying to exclude. When I was doing the comparison, I did notice that there were other prints that were not identified to the victim, and I wanted to eliminate the family as being that. So I went ahead and got major case prints from these individuals.
Okay, and when you say major case prints, what are those? What does that mean?
Instead of using a live scan machine, I use black powder and contact paper. So if we talked before about applying ink to the friction ridge skin, instead of using ink because it tends to get a little bit messy, I went ahead and used black powder. So the powder very similar to what crime scene folks use. And apply it to the friction ridge skin, so the bottoms of the fingers and the palms. And then I use regular sticky contact paper, and I apply it to that friction ridge skin, the powder, and I lift it off, and then I put it onto just a clear sheet of acetate, and I can use that as comparison.
Did you have in this particular case both live scan prints and major case prints for the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if I may approach.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could, Agent Lipscotch, identify what's been marked in the court as with State's Exhibit number 70.
State's Exhibit number 70 were the known live scan prints for Joanna Roberta Madonna.
And are those the prints that you relied on in part in doing your comparison analysis?
Yes, ma'am.
And are there any alterations or changes to that live scan as you used it?
No, ma'am.
No, we would ask at this time that State's Exhibit number 70 be admitted into evidence.
Okay. Subject, Your Honor.
And if you would please, Agent Lipscotch, identify what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 42.
State's Exhibit 42 is the manila sealed envelope containing the major case prints for Joanna Madonna that I collected on August 25th of 2015.
And you recognize them to be such how?
I have my case number, my date, and my name initials located on the outside of the envelope.
Are they substantially in the same condition as when you collected them?
The outside of the envelope is, I would need to
There
open
should be
it.
some scissors there in front of you if you don't mind opening it.
Yes, these are the major case prints that I collected for Joanna Madonna.
Has there been any alteration or deletion to them?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, we would ask that State's Exhibit number 42 be admitted into evidence.
Objection. No objection, Your Honor.
So we've heard all what known prints are, what latent prints are, and how you compare those. In this particular case, the homicide investigation of Jose Perez, how many comparisons did you do?
I received for this particular case 35 lift cards. Multiple latent prints were located on each particular lift card, but I did have 35 lift cards.
Okay, and in doing those comparisons between the known and the latent prints, how many identifications were you able to make?
I identified 12. So I've made 12 identifications on the 36 lift cards.
Okay, and if you could just tell us what those were,
Would you like it on each lift card?
please.
On lift card number 3, which was labeled as the hood, I identified the left palm of Madonna one time. On lift card number 4, which was the hood as well, I identified the left palm of Madonna one time.
When you say the front hood, I understand you were just taking off the latent cards, but does it indicate the front hood of what?
It just says hood. I usually have there is a drawing usually on the lift card itself, but that's what I referred for what the agent writes.
Were these the latent cards that were submitted into evidence by Agent Thompson
Yes, ma'am.
or Agent Louder, I believe she now goes by? Okay, I'm sorry to have interrupted you. Keep going.
Lift card number 10, which was labeled as the driver's rear wheel cover, I identified the right palm of the victim, Jose Perez. Just 1 second. Lift card 13, which was the interior driver's door, I identified the left palm of Madonna. Lift card 14 was the exterior right rear passenger wheel cover. I identified the left palm of Pritchard, Isabel Pritchard, 2 times. Lift card 17, which is the exterior right rear passenger door, I identified finger number 2 of Michelle Lopez, 1 time.
The defendant's daughter,
I believe so, yes.
and Isabel Pritchard is the defendant's daughter as well. Were you aware of that?
I knew they were in relation.
Okay.
Finger number 2, which is the right index of Michelle Lopez, 1 time. Finger number 3, the right middle of Michelle Lopez, 1 time. Finger number 4, the right ring of Michelle Lopez, 1 time. Lift card 19, the interior right rear passenger door, the right palm of Isabel Pritchard was identified 1 time, as well as finger number 1, the right thumb of Isabel Pritchard, identified 1 time. Lift card 23, the bottom of the Rampage knife box, finger number 5, right little of Madonna was identified 1 time.
If I may have 1 moment. Other latent prints that you examined, were they found to be inconclusive?
No, ma'am.
Okay, can you explain that?
There were other latent prints that were not of value. So if you can remember back when we were talking about the analysis, level 1, when you're beginning, you're actually asking yourself, is there enough information to proceed? So when I say that there was no value, there was not enough information to proceed. There were 3 other latent prints that were excluded as being all 5 individuals. Yes, all 5 individuals. That means that they were not identified.
Okay, and I know we've covered this, but just one last time, in terms of the quality of the latent print cards, that could be, as I remember, for any number of reasons. Is that correct? It's not necessarily just in how they're collected, but maybe in how the 3D part of your finger touching a 2D surface might actually leave a print.
Yes, ma'am. They are a chance impression, so they're not always left behind.
Great. Thank you. We have no further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Agent Scotch.
Good morning.
Just have a couple of questions for you. There is no way to age a print and see how recently or how far in the past that print has been left, correct?
The only way that you would be able to age a print is if you knew exactly when it was left and then you had it in a controlled environment. Otherwise, there hasn't been any way specifically to tell an age of a print.
Okay, and it wasn't a controlled environment in this case, was it?
That's correct, sir.
All right. And there's also no way to give any kind of determination of if I put my print here, how long it will last on this table, correct?
So once again, if there was a controlled environment and I watched that print and there was no external factors that affected it, then that print could last a very long time. But otherwise, being that it was a latent and I did not see when it was left down, then there is no way to determine that.
And you mentioned prints from Isabel and Rachel and Michelle. You would anticipate in the side of the family car, you find the fingerprints of people that rode in the car, correct?
So that is one of my jobs, is to eliminate prints and determine, who was actually in the vehicle.
But in this case, you have people that you would anticipate being in the vehicles, fingerprints being found in the vehicle.
Yes, I guess so.
Your Honor?
Correct.
None, Your Honor, thank you.
Any objection to being released from our state?
None, Your Honor, thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you, Agent Lipscotch.
For the evidence statement,
Your Honor, the state would call Rachel Lopez.
Bible, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear testimony you give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Please be seated.
please speak.
Would you state your full name for the court, please?
Rachel Ann Lopez,
And Rachel, how old are you?
22.
And what is your date of birth?
September 29th, 1992.
And are you in school or working or both?
I'm a full-time student,
And where are you a student?
Shaw University.
And do you have a particular course of study that you have?
My major is social work.
And when are you anticipating that you will graduate from Shaw with a social work degree?
May 2016.
And did you go straight through school all 4 years at one time, or did you have a break at some point in your schooling?
I started August 2010, and so this will be my last year. But I've been in school the past 6 years. I just kind of taken some time within the last.
And while you're in school, have you had any sort of job?
I was working last year, 2014, and only for a few months, and then I had gotten a job over the summer.
What did you do in 2014 during the school year?
I worked at CC's Pizza.
I'm sorry?
CC's Pizza.
And what did you do at Cece's Pizza?
I was a cashier.
And you said you also had a job over the summer, is that correct?
Yes.
What were you doing over the summer?
I was a technical support representative at a call center.
And for what kind of a business? Was it a call center? Are you still working there?
No.
And when did you stop working there?
Last month.
And what was the reason for you leaving that job?
Full-time, and I just wanted to be a full-time student.
Are you related to the defendant in this case, Joanna Madonna?
Yes.
How are you related to her?
I'm her daughter.
And are you her oldest child?
Yes.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
What are their names?
Michelle Lopez and Isabel Pritchard.
How old is Isabel Lopez?
Michelle's 21.
And how old is Isabel Pritchard?
Isabel's 10.
Now, you all have different fathers, is that correct?
Yes.
And your father's name was what?
Sean Samuel.
Father's name?
Jonathan Lopez.
Still alive. Isabel's father, who is he?
Chuck Pritchard.
And where does he live?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Have you ever met your dad?
No.
Have you ever talked with him?
Yes.
And was that over the phone or Skype? Or
Over the phone.
And did your mom tell you his name and help you make contact with him?
Yeah.
And how long ago was that?
This is probably 2001, 2002.
And so how many times have you had contact with him on the phone?
Twice, I believe.
And have you ever been to visit him?
No.
And were you wanting to go visit him?
Yeah, I would like to.
Did your mother and your father ever marry?
No.
And how is Jose Perez related to you?
He was my stepfather.
And so do you know when Jose Perez and your mother married?
I believe 2009.
Do you remember what part of the year it was?
I'm not sure.
Did you attend their wedding?
I don't think so.
Do you know where it was?
I believe in the courthouse.
Do you know if either of your sisters attended the wedding?
Yes,
They did?
I believe so.
And did your mother tell you before she intended to get married that she was going to marry Jose?
Yeah.
How long before she did that?
I'm not exactly sure.
Do you know how they met?
Through AA meetings.
So your mother is a recovering alcoholic?
Yes.
And Jose was also a recovering alcoholic?
Yes.
Had they both been sober for a long time as far as you knew?
Yes.
Now, who was your mother married to before she was married to Jose?
Chuck
And what's Chuck's last name?
Pritchard.
Do you know how they met?
He was a chef at a diner in upstate New York.
And how did your mother meet him?
We stopped there. We were on our way upstate, and we stopped there to get some food, and they met.
Do you know how long?
I don't know.
Years or months or?
I don't remember though.
And Chuck Pritchard was also an alcoholic, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And as you said before, he's Isabel's father.
Mm-hmm.
How long were they married?
6 years. I don't remember when they got married. We were still living in New York at that time.
And when they were still married, did they move from New York down to North Carolina?
Yes.
And once your mother and your siblings and Chuck, North Carolina, how long was it until they?
2 years, I believe.
And was your mother still married to Chuck when she started seeing Jose Perez?
I don't believe so. I know he was healed together. We met first.
And do you know how long it was? At some point your mom got divorced from Chuck Pritchard, right?
Yes.
And do you know how long it was between your mother's divorce from Chuck until she married Jose Perez?
I don't know.
Was it years or months or days?
I really don't know.
When Chuck was still your stepfather, when they were together, where were you living after you moved to North Carolina?
We moved to Roseville.
And did you stay there the entire time that your children were together?
Yes.
At some point?
Yes, we moved.
And when you moved to Wake Forest, was still living with your mom?
No.
When you moved to Wake Forest, where did you live in Wake Forest?
What do you mean where?
Do you remember the address that you lived in?
Kingsway Court.
3020. Was that the address?
No, that was a different address. I don't remember it was Kingsway Court though.
Kingsway Court. And
Yeah.
how long did you stay at Kingsway Court?
Maybe a year.
And after you left Kingsway Court, where did you move to?
We moved to 3020 Queensland Road.
And at some point, did Jose start to stay with your family?
Yes.
And when he moved in, when he first moved in?
I believe we were still at the Roseville house.
And did he move with you into Kingsway Court
Yes.
and to Queensland?
Yeah.
3020 Queen. At some point, was one of those houses a house that your mom and Chuck owned together?
The Roseville house.
And they split that was that house sold?
No.
Can you describe the situation in the household when your mother married to Chuck Pritchard?
What do you mean by situation?
Well, was it a happy marriage?
Yes.
They did
Probably little disagreements.
about him drinking times and seeing other people.
Objection to the leading, Your Honor.
What was the question?
There were never arguments that you were aware of about him drinking and seeing other women?
Not that I was aware of.
You were living in the house full time then, weren't you?
Yeah.
At some point, when you Glen Road house, was Jose of you before he married your mother?
I'm not sure.
Do you remember when you moved into the Queensland house?
Maybe 2009. So I'm not sure if it was before they got married or not.
Same time, you think?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So when you moved into that house, who all lived there?
Me and my sisters, my grandfather, my mother, and Jose.
And what was your...
Joanna Madonna.
And it's in a fairly good-sized house.
Mm-hmm.
Did everybody have their own bedroom?
Yeah.
So you had a bedroom?
Mm-hmm.
Isabel had a bedroom?
Yeah.
Bedroom. Your grandfather had his own bed, a separate living arrangement within the house?
It was an in-law suite on the first floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Jose and your mother shared a bedroom?
Yes.
After your mother married, did they buy a house together?
I believe so.
Now, where was that house?
In Wakefield,
And do you remember the name of the street?
Schoolhouse Street.
Do you remember the address?
12412.
And who?
Me and my sisters, my Jose.
And your grandfather, is that correct?
Correct.
When did he pass?
Last year.
And during the period of time when he lived with you here in North Carolina, was he disabled? What were his disabilities?
I know he had, he just had some stuff like with his blood. I know he had surgery on his heart before.
Okay. Now, your mother had married Jose Perez. You were able to get VA educational benefits, weren't you?
Yeah.
And so your college at that point was being paid for through the VA, is that right?
Yeah.
And you also became eligible for health benefits, didn't you?
Yes.
Like health insurance and health care. Did you also, as part of the family, have commissary privileges or PX privileges for shopping?
Yeah.
And did you ever go with your mother or Jose or both of them together to shop at a PX?
Mm-hmm.
Which one did you go to?
Near Fayetteville, I believe.
Okay. Do you know if before your mom married Jose, you had health insurance?
I think so.
Do you know whether you had health insurance?
Yeah.
Did you pay for it?
No, I didn't personally. My mother did.
Where did your health insurance come from?
I don't really remember.
Was at the time of your mother wasn't working, was she? She had at some point been a teacher.
Yeah.
But she left that job.
Mhm.
And that was sometime in 2012, is that right?
Yes.
What kind of, aside from you having health insurance and health benefits and PX privileges and educational benefits, your siblings also had those things, is that correct?
Right.
What kind of work was Jose doing while he was married to your mom?
He used to volunteer at the VA hospital.
And do you know what he did as a volunteer at the VA?
Not exactly sure.
Well, was he, or was he doing clerical? Was he a greeter like at Walmart, or?
I'm not sure.
You never talked to him about what he did?
No.
He did it frequently, didn't he?
Yeah.
On a regular basis?
Mm-hmm.
For the entire time that he was...
So.
And you said that your mother had been a teacher. Is that what she teach?
She taught Spanish for a while. She was also, I think she assisted with a special education class as well.
And do you know, she kept herself pretty.
Mm-hmm.
She was outside interests, outside the home.
Yeah.
What kinds of physical activities did she do?
She likes swimming, gardening, walking, shopping.
She also like to do Pilates.
Yeah.
And did she do yoga?
Yeah.
What other kinds of things did your mom like to do?
Oh, she adopted animals.
SPCA?
Yeah.
Any other kind of animal rescue type work?
I think she worked at a veterinarian hospital for a little while.
Do you know if that was a paid job or a volunteer job?
I'm not sure.
What about at the ASPCA?
I think that was just volunteer.
Do you know how long she'd been doing that?
A long time.
And at the vet hospital as well?
I don't think that long.
Did she, was she interested in any crafts or making things?
Yeah.
What kind
Jewelry.
What kind of jewelry did she make?
Necklaces, rings, earrings, bracelets.
And did she sell those things?
Mm-hmm.
How did she sell them?
At the flea market or eBay or Etsy.
And what's Etsy? Some people might not know that. They probably know eBay.
I believe it's the same type of website. I think it's more so like do-it-yourself, like crafts and stuff that people sell.
Did your mom sometimes substitute teach?
Yes.
And did she sometimes tutor people?
Yes.
Did she have parties at the house?
Sometimes.
And the people that would come to the parties, how did she know those people?
Mostly they were from AA, or maybe like a teacher and coworker of hers.
And you mentioned that maybe from AA she'd attend meetings.
Yeah.
Did she attend on a regular basis?
Yes.
And did she sometimes attend with Jose?
Yes.
And did she sometimes attend on her own?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the names of any of the places that she went to for meetings?
I can't remember.
Did she go to a place called Oasis?
Sounds familiar.
Camel Club?
Yeah.
Did she sometimes go out and meet with friends and have lunch or coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever invited to any of those outings with her friends?
Yeah.
And did she also do work cleaning other people's houses?
Yes.
Do you know how many people she cleaned house for?
I think just one.
And you know she worked in a law firm doing some filing?
Yeah.
Was that for the same person that she cleaned house?
Mm-hmm.
And did you have pets in the house?
Yes.
How many pets did you have in 2013?
We had 7 or 8.
And tell me how the family arrived at having 7 to 8 pets in the house.
Well, we had a dog that we've had. I think she passed away from when we lived in New York as well, and then the other animals were adopted or were foster animals with us that we've had since we moved here.
Now, when after your mom married Jose, can you describe for us your relationship with him?
With Jose?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't very close. We had a good relationship.
Was he pleasant to you?
Yeah.
Kind? Things for you that showed that he was concerned about you?
Yeah.
What kinds of things?
I mean, he would, pick me up if I needed a ride somewhere, or maybe something to eat. I mean, stepfather things.
Did do things around the home?
Yeah.
What are some of the things he did around the house?
Like yard work, and he would clean the cars all the time. He'd help my grandfather out.
Help your grandfather?
Make him dinner or breakfast or something. He would take him to his events. Yeah.
So your grandfather would have doctor's appointments that he'd have to go to?
Yeah.
And Jose would take him to those?
Yeah.
Did he also do things for Isabel?
Yeah.
What kinds of things did he do that were kind for Isabel?
Excuse me. He would, get up with her in the morning, get her ready for school, pick her up afterwards, take her to get ice cream or something, take her to her appointments and whatnot. So.
What kind of appointments did Isabel have?
Therapy.
And why was she going to therapy?
She's autistic.
You said that Jose did some things around the house, like cleaning the cars, and he cooked sometimes, and he did yard work. Did he mow the lawn?
Yeah.
And how did he mow the lawn?
The lawnmower.
Was it a ride-on mower or a push mower?
I believe it's probably right on.
And he enjoyed riding on the ride-on mower, didn't he?
Yeah.
Did you ever see him or hear him be abusive, either physically or not, or otherwise, to your mother?
I just remember they would just argue sometimes, but never any physical, nothing ever physical.
Did he ever do anything physically abusive or otherwise abusive to you?
No.
Did you ever see him do anything physically or otherwise abusive to Michelle?
No.
To your grandfather?
No.
To Isabel?
No.
Your grandfather and Isabel got along with him really well, didn't they?
Yeah.
Michelle, not so much.
No, not really.
That Michelle and Jose had some issues, right?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Jose and Michelle had some issues, didn't they?
I don't think she was ever too fond of him.
And there were some rules that were set up in the house that people were supposed to obey, like curfews.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And were some of the disagreements between Michelle and Jose about curfews?
Probably.
Yes or no? Did you know?
Well, no, I don't really know.
Did you have any issues with Jose about curfews?
Probably a few times.
And it worked out okay?
Yeah.
He was in an odd position, wasn't he, with two pretty much grown children moving into that house?
Mm-hmm.
And was he trying, in your mind, to be like a father to you?
Yeah.
And were you pretty much okay with that?
Yeah.
Was Michelle?
Yeah.
If she knows for sure, she may answer.
What was the question?
Do you know whether Michelle was Jose trying to...
I don't know.
There was occasionally someone else living in the house besides you, Michelle, Isabel, your grandfather, your mother, and Jose, correct?
Yeah.
And who is that person?
My friend Shetty.
Somebody else sometimes living in the house?
I think Michelle's friend Taylor was staying.
And how often did Taylor stay at the house?
I don't know.
Was that a point of contention with Jose that Taylor was staying at the house?
I don't know.
You never heard any discussion about that between Michelle and Jose?
No.
You were coming home weekends, and when you were there, was Taylor always there?
Not always.
Did Michelle and Taylor know each other?
I think they met in middle school
Did they work together?
at one point.
Together.
Golden Corral.
And when they worked on weekends and they worked the same shift, would stay at the house?
I think so.
That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our evening recess. At this point, during this time, it is your duty not to talk among yourselves about this case. Do not talk to the parties, the witnesses, the lawyers about anything at all. Further duty not to talk to anyone else, to allow anyone else to talk with you, to say anything in the presence about this case. If you provide any information about this trial in any form, you need to let the sheriff know when you come back. Avoid reading, watching, listening to accounts of this trial if there are any. Don't do any individual research or investigation on your own. Stay away from computers in any form. And do not form or express an opinion about this case during this time. With that, while everyone else will remain seated, would excuse the 13 of you and ask that you return to the assembly jury room tomorrow morning at 9:30. That's your excuse.